Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ginge and Pedro show, episode 20. This is the special Christmas episode. No Pedro today, but that's all right because I got my boy with Mr. Ryan Haack with me. Ryan, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing
Thank you for
good.
joining me, man.
Of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely. This is a special Christmas episode, so we got to have the sort of the indie king of Christmas over here. I
Oh,
know nobody else. It's really interesting, honestly, because you chose Christmas as your kind of holiday theme, whereas I don't know any other Christmas themed books. And then there's
yeah.
but like Ben Soto, he put out Halloween Head comics. There's always a bunch of Halloween comics, but there's no Christmas comics. So that's an
Mhm.
interesting. Why'd
Yeah.
you choose Christmas?
Well, yeah, it's something I really enjoy as a holiday. It's also I felt there was a compelling story that could be told
Mhm.
with the kind of materials that the culture around that holiday. Like I mean, there's so many different specials and stuff, but again, I think I was mentioning this before, but like my goal was to really make the ultimate Christmas special. So like if there was never going to be one again, this would be
Mhm.
what it is, or like it's the ultimate one that really encompasses everything possible. So that's kind of it kind of was a no-brainer for me to do a Christmas thing because that's just
Mhm.
one of my favorite times. And I think also though holiday has a lot of iconography, I think Christmas has just as much or more.
Hmm.
So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot to work with.
Yeah, right on. And yeah, I mean, it's probably just as old in terms of like, sort of the roots of it all as maybe Halloween or, sort of those original origins. So, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh.
yeah. So before we get too much into, bric-a-brac and all of that, I'd like to kind of start with, because I know you've got a couple other works as well, and you're a comic book writer.
Uh-huh.
So I'd kind of like to start with, when did you start writing? Have you always been writing? What was it like creatively for you as a kid growing up?
Yeah. So basically, I started kind of I really didn't get into comic books until like high school, really. And that was around the time where the New 52 kind of
Hmm.
thing came out. And it felt kind of accessible in that way. I guess
Hmm.
there were some series that I actually started picking up and things like that. And then some, especially with Batman, I really enjoyed. I'd always liked superheroes, like Spider-Man and Star Wars before that, but never really
Hmm.
anything further than the movies or whatnot. But I think that the narrative kind of like really caught on to me because it was my own little thing. Like no one else in my small town that I grew up in was around them or knew about them. They thought, I mean, honestly, I had people tell me like they still make those, like, thinking that they're made in like the 70s and that's when they stopped completely, like newspaper prints or whatever. But no, I mean, it
Hmm.
was just no one knew about them. So it was kind of my thing. And I enjoyed having that thing. And, I just continued growing my collection and I,
Hmm.
volunteered at a comic book store for a
Nice.
time. I mean, it was kind of it was fun to see like the kind of people who would come in and the knowledge they had. I was almost
Hmm.
envious of like how much they knew. I felt like I wanted to memorize. Like I remember I would literally go on online and try to memorize the whole DC roster of characters. Like, what is the secret identity of the just main Justice League members, and the even strange characters like no one really cares that I know the real name of like some of Batman's villains or whatnot, but it just I wanted to know them, and that's really where it came from, is that desire to have the knowledge. And
Hmm.
that's yeah. And at first, that's really where it started, and then I really didn't start writing them until like kind of. I didn't really have the desire to write them until maybe like a year after I got into them really deeply, and
Hmm.
I just hadn't stopped since. Like I just always felt like it's a fun hobby to do, and
Hmm.
something that I enjoy. Like the idea that you can really only have four people and make a story just as compelling as like an actual movie, or I mean, you
Hmm.
really only need a couple people to make a comic book or a graphic novel. Yes, it takes time, but like
Hmm.
you can tell really compelling stories. And I mean, I think it's with a small amount of people, and it can be very, very beautiful. And I think that the attraction to it is just like, I'm surprised not more people make them, because there's so many great people. I think everyone has a story,
Hmm.
and I think that comic books is just one of the great ways that you can tell them. I think, even above prose in a lot of ways, even though prose can go into more detail, there's like a symphony going on when you are in a comic book. It's like this connection of all these moving parts, the art, the inking, the lettering, and it's kind of like hypnotizing in a way. It's like it just works really well. So anyway, that was the appeal to me. And again, but I think when I first started, I was like really like I wanted to know more than people at the comic book store. I wanted to have more knowledge because I thought that was so cool to know that. But really, it's just like the stories now I really enjoy, and I'm not super up to date with what's going on with the books now per se. Like I do try to keep in contact with like, what's Batman up to or but just kind of right now, just making my own things or reading certain things from the past. But that's kind of how I got interested in them.
Yeah, that's actually not too different from me, really. Growing up, for me, my big three was like Spider-Man, Batman, and then Star Wars. And I'd honestly even say it was Star Wars first, just because growing up, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. So that was like on VHS. My Uncle Daryl had like the original trilogy. And that was just something that got put in front of me as a kid really early on. You sound like you're a bit of a research bug, actually. Do you spend a lot of time researching?
I like when it's something that I find interesting with that whole DC thing. I was really into DC, and I just it was real. I think the thing about the comic books at first was it was my own thing. Like I honestly didn't know anyone who was that into comic books as me. For a long time, and it was really like kind of like my own thing. So it was really cool to just have that secret. But yeah, I mean, I still really enjoy like the idea of like a never-ending universe. Like that's why I find the appeal of the DC universe and the Marvel universe. Like it just never ends. It's like it can just go on forever, and characters can come back and die and come back and die. And Batman never ages, and he has this. He's always like 45 years old, but somehow he's had dozens and dozens of Robins and whatnot, or Batgirls, and it's just kind of cool how like it never ends, and the characters never really age out of their prime. I don't know. There's something very appealing about that, and then you can. I like how also the idea of like taking an old character, and this happens a lot in comic books, and then they dust them off, and then they modernize them, or something completely wacky. That becomes very compelling. Like I think that sometimes certain writers are really good at that. Like I think Scott Snyder, Grant Morrison is another one who's really good at taking something from the past and actually making it not only compelling but like something that actually sticks in the universe. In a certain respective universe, and people actually enjoy it. And I don't know. There's something really cool about comic books and that whole universe that is not similar. There's nothing else in fiction or in entertainment like them. I don't think, they're like a very unique, and the more that I think about it and get older, the more I realize how unique they are and how special it is. So, and I think that comes with them too. I think you start to realize it's very simple. Like the whole process is so simple, but yet it's very fun. So.
Yeah, I bring this up a lot, actually, but it's just something that kind of really fascinates me. The original Addams Family, like the show, the cartoon, that's actually from a comic strip. It was more like what we would probably call like an illustration today, but Charles Addams, the guy that created the Addams Family, that was like in the 1930s when the Addams Family was created. So. And then, I mean, it went from a comic strip to they did a cartoon in Charles Addams style, and eventually to the live action TV show. And to me, when I found that out, I was like, so you're telling me we've been doing comic book adaptations of shit in Hollywood since like the beginning of Hollywood, and people to being able to adapt things? It's just really interesting that way.
It's weird because I think there's right now, I think and I heard someone talk about this, and I thought it was very true. Like, a long time ago, like, in the 70s or the 80s, it seemed like comic books were really I mean, even in the 60s and 50s, the comic books were taking from TV and television. Like they would have like the pulps, the romance, the this. And it was very influenced by television or novels that were really popular or outside sources. But it seems like now everything is being influenced by comic books. So it's like throwing back. It's weird how like now, you know, obviously Spider-Man's huge, you know, now because the movie came out, or just an example of all these manga getting adapted, or all of this like these comic books getting adapted for Netflix. It just seems like comic books now are the main influence in culture, like, and manga especially. Like you know how the whole process goes in Japan, where like a manga will become a manga first, and then if it gets popular enough, it becomes an adaptation. So it's just like a weird culture flip I think we're in now, when it's been this way since, I think, you know, like the 2010s or maybe even early 2000s, because you know, when the first Spider-Man movie or whatnot, because like, yeah, it just seems like culture is highly influenced by comic books now. It's almost like that's where everything comes from. That's where people go to get their movie deals, you know? So it's weird how it's flipped, because, you know, people, and I think that there's a stigma about comic books, of course, before I was born. But I mean, even now, still, like, people are like, they're not real books, but you can't deny the fact that they have a massive influence on our culture now. I mean, literally every other movie has been a comic book, it seems like, a Hollywood movie, you know, or even show at this point. So it's just, it's an interesting time.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think just honestly, as it progresses, comic books will probably get more mainstream cred. Like
Yeah.
I can hear some like old librarian lady who just has never liked comic books thinking those aren't real books. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
that's all right. I mean, they are a
Yeah.
massive source of culture. It is also, I think, comic books. It's almost most of the work done for the team. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's kind of like, it's
Yeah.
an easy transition, I think, which isn't
Right.
necessarily a bad thing. It's just, I was actually talking to my buddy about this the other day. It's I'm just in favor. I understand you want to change, you know, things from the comic book, which makes sense. You want to do your own spin on it, but kind of where we're at with some of these characters is they're not even recognizable from the source material. And
Yeah.
maybe I just sound crabby, but it's I don't know. It's we kind of got what we wanted, I think, in a way. Like, nerds are popular and cool
Yeah, I
now, but it's
agree.
like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, it's like the
Okay.
super nerds now are like, they have to, their characters are altered, and that, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's
Yes.
cool that everyone is becoming a nerd. It's really cool that you can talk about Spider-Man and like all, you know,
Hmm.
it's funny how you can talk about Miles Morales with someone who it just watches the movies, you know, whereas Miles
Hmm.
Morales, you know, he has all this comic book history, and I don't know, it just, it's weird how you know, even on the CW shows, they're putting all these new characters in from comic books that
Hmm.
are deep in the comic book lore, even some of that I don't even know about. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy how now that the comic books are more popular, people start to understand like
Hmm.
characters that are completely wacky, and
Hmm.
Peter Porker or whatnot. Like the whole Spider-Verse thing was awesome, right? Because all these crazy characters, Spider-Man Noir, you know,
Hmm.
like now everyone knows who that is. So it's just kind of
Right.
cool. It's kind of cool.
Yes, I actually will agree with that. CW shows, for what their problems that they have, they do
Yeah.
try to bring in a lot of other characters. Like, I think they did a Deathlock. I know the first couple
Death
seasons of Arrow had Deathstroke, which
Deathlock is a
was
Marvel character, isn't it? Deathlock.
Deathlock. Yes, but I'm pretty sure there's a I'm
Deathstroke
pretty sure.
series? I think you're right.
Well,
It's called like Knights and Demons or something like that. And then they actually turned it into a movie, I think, or
okay.
something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on. Anyways, Deathlock. There's a Deathstroke, and then there's a Deathlock.
Deathlock is
Deathlock.
a robot.
Right.
Deathlock
Yeah.
is the
Okay.
robot who's like
Okay.
crazy. He's not fully in his right mind. He's like a cyborg.
Yeah, he's got like half a face, got a kind of a Terminator
Oh, maybe he
looking.
was in the Agents of Shield. That might be what you're thinking of.
I think so. I'm looking at a character right now who they're saying is Deathlock, but he doesn't have half a face, so maybe it's
Huh.
prior. But yeah, Marvel Cinematic. I'm just curious now.
Yeah.
He's a cool character,
Oh, he
and
definitely is a cool character.
I'm
Yeah.
sort of using his look, and kind of not necessarily his backstory, but that kind of cybernetic enhancement. I'm using that as a villain right now for
Sure,
something I'm
sure.
doing. But
Awesome.
anyways, let's hop back into Bric-A-Brac, because it
Yeah,
kind of sounds
absolutely.
a bit. It kind of sounds a bit like of what you like about comic books.
Hmm.
This essentially a massive shared universe, is
Hmm.
almost in a way kind of the genesis of Bric-A-Brac in a way. I mean,
Hmm.
you've pulled from a massive shared universe, which is our reality, that is all these different Christmas traditions all across the world, and you've taken them in and you've repurposed them, you've reshaped them, you've used them in ways that we are still familiar with, not
Uh-huh.
unlike comic books in a way. And it's funny that you made it into a comic book. So, how
Right.
about that?
Yeah, you're right.
So,
It is a huge shared universe. Yeah, absolutely.
which isn't a negative or anything. It's just kind of like you pulled from the original shared universe,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
reality. So, Bric-A-Brac number one. Let's talk about that, bro.
Okay.
What was the initial idea that hit you when you were just what were you doing, and how did that all begin?
Yeah, it might have been about 3 years ago at this point. Yeah, because I think that's where I met all the other artists that are involved in it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I have always had this desire to again tell the ultimate Christmas special because I really like, the movies like The Polar Express. I really like it. There's some
Hmm.
issues with it, but there's like a that the boy is on like a journey that I feel like is so relatable. In terms
Hmm.
of like trying to find out if Santa Claus is real and like even if he's not, what does that mean? If he is, what does that mean? And
Hmm.
like there was something so fantastical about that and special to me about that. I can't explain it. But then it was kind of that, and then of course like me loving Christmas as a child, adding, I love the iconography of Christmas, the lights, the
Hmm.
candy, and then the Rankin Bass. I always used to love those as a kid, and bringing that into to
Hmm.
this story. And then I like action and I like comic books, so of course I want to make it a comic book and make it exciting and cool. And
Hmm.
I think just adding all these elements together, like it really didn't happen all at once because I think at first it took place on Earth, and my first draft of the story, and it had a lot of different themes, but still it's
Hmm.
had the same main character and his same goal is like trying to find Father Christmas and whatnot. But then I think the context of the war was added. Just I don't really know where it came from. It's kind of weird where ideas come from and then they start building and building and building.
Hmm.
Like it just kind of happened one day. I woke up and I was like, this is what it should be. And yeah, it kind of happened. And I think of one thing, I do this thing where I make a playlist and I add a lot of Christmas songs, and I have this
Hmm.
massive playlist for this thing. And I think, little by little, as I started adding on songs, it becomes more clear like what the story is going to be. It's kind of hard to explain, but
Hmm.
that's how it's always worked for me with stories, and especially long form stories. And
Hmm.
so yeah, that's kind of I made a blueprint for the whole thing, and basically it got to where it is, where we have a planet Christmas and there's a war going on. So there's this extra conflict where there's really a big conflict where our main character is kind of faced with all these new enemies and threats in a world he doesn't know, because he's like really just starting his whole life. He wants to leave the protection of his the sugar plum fairies, and he wants to
Hmm.
go out into the world and see what it's like, and then come back and tell everyone, like the classic hero's journey, just going back,
Hmm.
or the cave, Plato's cave, like going out into the world and coming back and telling everyone. But it goes wrong very quickly because the Nutcrackers are taking over this place that he lives, and
Hmm.
basically he's forced to go out and find Father Christmas for real because he
Hmm.
needs to because he thinks Father Christmas can fix this whole thing. He and his friends devise that is what's going to happen, and it basically he
Can I
does
just say
that.
real quick?
Uh-huh.
Um, when the Nutcrackers came in on the page, like immediately, dude, I started hearing the dun 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 dun. Dun. I'm pretty sure that's the
Yeah, yeah,
Nutcracker tune. I'm not sure. Is
it
that the
is.
Sugar
It
Plum
is.
Fairy? So okay, yeah. I was
Well,
actually
wait,
in
I
that
think you're
play
right.
as a kid.
It might be the. It's you're in the same universe, the same
Uh,
Tchaikovsky universe. Yeah,
right, but as soon as that happened, it kicked in, and I was
yeah,
like, oh man. So I mean,
right.
right, that's like page two, I think, as well. So I mean, right out of the
Yeah,
gate,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
it's
the conflict immediately starts. Yeah, which it would be cool to see him a little bit before that. And I've thought about that before, maybe thinking like trying to delve into what his life was like there. But at the same time, it's not that important because I'm trying to make him more relatable. And if I gave you more of his backstory, I feel like it would make, especially because it's so sci-fi. Like one of the cool things about Luke Skywalker is that we don't see his friends and we don't see where he goes to high school and we don't see all these totally crazy things that he like living on Tatooine is like. We just really get to see him working on a farm, which is pretty relatable. And we don't see Garrett in his massive universe of Christmas things. And we really just see him, just as a normal kid going on this adventure into this strange new world. So I don't know. I just think that maybe not telling too much about his backstory leaves a lot of room for development in the future too, because of course we want to continue this series after this arc and whatnot. But anyway, the whole main conflict is what I said. The Nutcrackers are trying to take over. At first, it seems that that's their goal. There's definitely secret things behind them. There's a person behind them that's in charge of that. And as you read on, you'll learn that. And then there's a lot of there's Jack Frost. There's a character, Good King Wenceslas, who we meet in issue 3. There's a gingerbread woman named Marie who's kind of Garrett's confidant because he's 10 years old and he does need a guide throughout this planet because he really has no clue what he's doing, and he doesn't know how to fight, and he's put into many situations where he has to, even though he doesn't want to, So it's just it's a fun story, and it has everything in there.
Yeah, what you just described, I'm halfway through issue 1 here, like I mentioned, but what you described, I think it's a really, it's honestly it's a really nice writing philosophy. It's a very hopeful, there's that. With Christmas, there is that element of like being 10 years old and everything is like so magical. I think you absolutely nailed it by your art team, but also just the writing, bro. Like Santa finding out that it's Father Christmas and like they're writing a list to Santa, like that is, it's like almost obvious, but it's very clever at the same time. It's like, it made me laugh when I saw it. I was like, that's good.
Yeah.
It's just a smart little thing to do, you know what I mean? To make this a real story. Yeah.
Yeah. And you want to kind of base it in things like there's some things characters say that are legitimately lines from other Christmas stories. Or there's some sentences people will say that are actually, famous lines from like Rudolph with well, he doesn't quite say that, but there's several examples. Hey, give me a second here. I just need to turn my oven off. 1 second.
Yes, sir. Oh, absolutely.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Oh, not at all. Welcome back.
But yeah, there's a lot of like, for example, there's a line. I think Father Christmas says something like, on Dasher on Dancer. That's obviously one. But like at the end of Frosty, for example, Santa Claus says to the little girl, I forget her name, Alice maybe, but he says, when Frosty melts and he's like, oh, when that magical Christmas snow falls again, he'll be back. And so we have basically that line, Father Christmas saying that line too. He says, we have to leave for our safety, yes, but when that magical Christmas snow falls again, we'll be back. So it's kind of like callbacks to like pieces of dialogue too from those classic movies. And you might not notice it, but it makes it kind of feel connected. So, there's that.
So just a quick little off branch from this. I noticed you also had a horror anthology.
I did. Yes.
So you're a Christmas guy, and then you're also a horror guy.
Yeah, you could say that for sure.
Is horror, is that something you spend a lot of time like? I'm a big horror guy. I love watching horror movies, or I actually got into writing to write horror. But I also do love Christmas. You kind of need to wash away the horror with all of the warm and fuzzy of Christmas. It's nice that they come after another. But do you spend a lot of time watching horror movies just for fun or anything like that?
That series it is horror. Some of it is, but it's not like slasher or anything. It's really more suspense, and it's an excuse for me to put ideas that I think are kind of crazy, like Twilight Zone type ideas, into an anthology. kind of thing.
Nice.
And yeah, some of them do end up being a little bit more horror than usual, but a lot of them are like really concept driven stories, really fun stuff. Like, and they're only 3 to 4 to 5 pages. And it's just kind of like something really fun to collaborate with a new artist that I find on the internet, which on it, whether it be on Instagram or ArtStation, which is one thing I really enjoy doing, like meeting people who are really passionate about telling stories, and just telling it with them, and it's really fun. And I also suggest, people who are trying to get better at writing, this is a good way to do that, is trying to, especially comic books. And if you don't have a lot of money, just, I would say go on ArtStation and find someone to collaborate with, because there's many, many people out there who are hungry to collaborate, and then just write a small script and collaborate on it. And then, if you continue to do that, you might be able to put an anthology together. And then that's kind of what I did. That's how I started. So it's just like, it's a fun thing. And we're going to have another one coming out next year. And
Nice.
it's just really, really fun. That whole series is fun. But I agree. Like, I think this is an example. This story is an example of like an epic children's story. But, the other anthology, it's kind of a palate cleanser, kind of like you said. It's something where you can put these crazy ideas into it, and it works out. So
Okay, yeah. No, I totally agree. I definitely
yeah.
dig it, and that was really reading this. It definitely feels a lot like an epic. I would agree. I mean, it feels like the start of you. Did you study the hero's journey or anything like that in the pre-planning of this?
Not necessarily. I mean, we've all seen movies where it happens, and just where a character grows to come to a certain understanding. Like, he gets betrayed, or he gets this, or he befriends people, and then he also meets different reflections of himself. Like, just kind of storytelling. And we are kind of, basing it on those classic specials. I mean, even though Rudolph is super short, it's maybe like 40 minutes. Rudolph really does go through an entire arc, like he learns to be bold and not afraid, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't care what other people think about him. But Santa Claus and Santa Claus is Coming to Town also comes through an arc. He learns to he learns something. He learns to become Santa Claus. He learns, like, instead of he learns that spirit of giving. There's just, even in these small specials, they're really simple arcs, but they're really meaningful arcs. And I think with this one, he's going to learn to, first off, be more confident, and he's going to be exposed to this world that will force him to change. And I think also the meaning of Christmas for him will change too. Like, Planet Christmas is a planet that is really vulnerable to outside attacks, because they have no knowledge of weapons or anything of that nature. They're completely, they're completely vulnerable. So I think this whole experience is going to force him to also want to help other people in this planet that are just like him, that he just wants, after this entire war is through. I think that's another thing that he'll appreciate Christmas more. And it's just yeah, I hope that he goes through an arc where he grows as a character, and then as we continue, when he's older, he'll have more of a role in the community of Planet Christmas. Just, I think those kind of simple arcs are important. That's what drives stories. Is when a character goes from one place to another, that's really where story happens.
Did you ever catch? I think we're about the same age. Growing up, there was this. I don't remember the name, and it was. I think they only played it like maybe once or twice. Cartoon Network had this. I guess you would call it a Santa Claus anime. It was like maybe early 2000s. It was a couple episodes long. It may have been done by the team that did that early 2000s He-Man remake. It was done in that art style. It looked like a Japanese anime. It was very, very nice American like style artwork, and it was the early story of Santa Claus before he was even Saint Nick. It was like him as a man learning to accept
Yeah,
his role, and
like the
like
Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, like the early.
something like that. I
Yeah.
really don't remember, but it was beautifully drawn, and I just remember being hooked in it right away. It was like, never mind it that it's Santa Claus. It was like this felt like, I mean, I think he carried like a wooden sword, or not a sword, like a wooden staff, and was like, I think there was like he had like a brother that was a bad guy or something. It was like it was really interesting
Yeah.
and really well done, and it's always stuck with me. It was just something that I was wondering if something maybe
Yeah,
you caught as a
I
kid.
think it's called the Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. I think that's the one, and that's by L. Frank Baum, who did like the Wizard of Oz and created the whole Oz universe. And Santa Claus exists in the Oz universe,
Nice,
which is kind
very
of
cool.
crazy if you think about it. It's like Santa Claus exists in the Oz universe. But yeah, like yeah, I think that's the one you're talking about. But I like that, like going into like what is a world that actually these Christmas characters exist in? What does that look like? Like what is there's like on Planet Christmas, there's beaches, there's volcanic areas, there's underwater civilizations. Like that's like the goal is to kind of just delve into something and like make it kind of like Tolkien-esque, like just develop it as if it were a real place. And that's what I like about L. Frank Baum's that story is like it actually considers like what Santa Claus could be growing up, and he goes through an entire arc, just like we were talking about. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very sort of deep stuff to put into a Christmas show. But I mean, it totally stuck with me. And yeah, it's a classic hero's journey
right.
type bit. Yeah. So let's hop back into Bric-A-Brac here. I have
Okay.
a horrible habit of getting off topic there, but so you're up to book number 3 right now. But
We
for those
are.
that didn't pick up 1 or 2, we kind of have hit one. Could you kind of just brush over number 2 and how it leads into number
Sure.
3?
Yeah, so number one is really the beginning of the journey. We, everything established. The Nutcrackers seem to be the enemy at first. Issue 2 is really the development of that, where we have that Garrett and Marie as they team up together because, like I said, he's kind of their confidant. Like they go to the North Pole, which they try to find Father Christmas. He's gone. Well, he leaves immediately when they get there because he's trying to escape the Nutcrackers because they're about to attack. So the Nutcrackers attack the North Pole. And basically, Garrett and Marie are forced to. This is the failed campaign. There's another one, but it has all the same sample pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it should have all the same. Yeah, so here's a fight. We meet Jack Frost, and he fights the main Nutcracker, and because they have a past, that is has to do with the origin of the war in general. So it's very interesting. It's a big 1v1 battle, and that's fun. And basically, Garrett and Marie, they're again like they're finding Father Christmas, going on this big journey. They run into some people that kind of try to hurt them, and in the there's not everyone on Planet Christmas enjoys Christmas. Just like on Earth, there's people who don't enjoy Christmas. There's people who are anti this or that establishment, have you not?
I can't believe that. So
Yeah. So just like that, there's people on Planet Christmas who have different beliefs than
interesting.
So there's that, and yeah, that's pretty much where we end. Is the Garrett is captured by a secret. Well, basically, he's captured by another character, Good King Wenceslas, who is really the main one of the main characters in issue 3. But yeah, and also issue 2, we get a backstory about the war. Who and what? How did it start? Where did the Nutcrackers get their weapons from? Who? And yeah, it's really the issue 2 is again more development on issue number 1, because like we said, issue number 1 literally drops you in the middle of it. There's really no explanation of how it happened or how the war started in general. We just know that the Nutcrackers are bad. But yeah, with issue 2 there's a big backstory, and with issue 3, again, we're just going deeper into it, and this secret enemy that I've been mentioning, who's kind of behind all of it, is really enacting his plan to take over this planet in world domination, or global domination rather, or not just global domination, galactic domination, because he wants to prove to the secret enemy wants to prove to his planet, the people of this planet, that he's capable, and he's going to take over this galaxy, where Planet Christmas just happens to be one of the planets in that galaxy. So there's that, and so there's a conflict there. But like I said, Planet Christmas, again, they're really not advanced. Like this is Good King Wenceslas, and he only has a sword. Like no one there really has weapons until this outside person gives them weapons and really starts this war. And he's the catalyst of this massive conflict. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this whole thing, and a lot of cool characters. But really, our main character Garrett is kind of the main person who's the through line of all of this, and so it's pretty fun. It's a really fun story.
Very nice. Yes, I definitely get that Garrett is on a full ride here. You're into book number 3. Initially starting out with book 1, did you see yourself doing an ongoing series like this? Was it always planned out like that?
No, I mean, I think there was an arc planned, but even after this arc, I didn't really have plans until really recently. I think that I have the desire to continue on with this and really develop it as like a plan, like an actual living planet. I feel like we're going in a Star Wars mold here. We're looking at it in a Star Wars way where there's massive conflicts, there's a massive battle, there's a war going on. But what would happen if, like, let's say the war ends and Garrett wants to go on like an Indiana Jones type adventure to find something? Like I feel like we could change the tone and change the type of adventure, and it would be just as, or if not cooler than it was before. So I think, and maybe Garrett could be older, like I said, he's more mature, and
Right.
he has a more standing in this universe, whereas now he's just a kid kind of being a victim of all of these. He's really just stumbling upon new people in this world, as opposed to if he's older, he has more of an influence. He's more capable. He can fight for himself. So I just think that there's a lot more potential. But yeah, it was always planned to just be this arc. But I'm really glad that I kind of made the decision that we will go forward after number 4, because that's the end of this arc. There's going to be 4 issues in this one.
Okay, very nice. So, is the production on book 3? Is it already drawn? I know you've got the other 2 there, obviously.
It's not complete. No, we're on we're at really maybe like 20% done with issue 3. Or yeah, 3. We're not. I mean, we're actively producing pages right now at the moment, but we aren't. We are nowhere near done. So yeah, again, we need that extra push from the campaign, obviously, and yeah, it's just going to be really, really fun to have everyone. Hopefully we fund. I really do hope we fund, because it'll be great to do that.
Also, this is actually the featured tier. This is actually a really solid
right.
This is a really solid deal. I mean, you honestly can't beat this. All 3 books for $30. That's $10 a book. You get the story up till now. Yeah, and honestly, I think you will get funded, and I can see this. I'm sure you've had these kind of thoughts, but it's sort of a collected edition.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like the product design on that. That's my bad. That's always a lot of fun. I can see a nice hardcover version of the book, like maybe it's got like some nice kind of like wrapping, like a teared torn wrapping on the front or something like that, like the story of Bric-A-Brac. Yeah. Can we play the trailer here?
Yeah, it's short, but yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me know if you can hear this.
Visited Planet Christmas, the Nutcrackers were at the height of their powers.
Can you hear that?
But the tables are turning. A secret enemy has been manipulating the battle from behind the scenes, and now his plan for intergalactic domination is about to be put into effect. Our hero Garrett will encounter new friends and unlikely allies who might help him defeat the planet-conquering warlord, but there's no telling if they'll make it out alive. This 25-page 3rd issue is fully illustrated by Raphael Sam, lettered by the talented Eric Hodson, and written by myself, Ryan Haack. Back this book and enter the fantastical yet dangerous world of Bric-A-Brac.
Very nice, brother.
Yeah, just short, short.
Let me get my YouTube trash out of here. Okay. Well, either way, yes, really solid. And dude, Raphael, I mean, that guy is a legitimate artist, man. These are some beautiful work, dude.
Yeah, for sure. And the guy who does our covers, his name is Tom Barton. He his art's very complimentary to Raphael's, but I would also say that he does League of Legends stuff. He works for he did this image here, and I would follow him too on Instagram, Tomo_Tron, and on Twitter as well. He's an awesome guy and has great skills, as you can see. So yeah, it's a great team.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see a difference here, but they are, yes, very, very complimentary. I mean, you picked a really solid team. Did Tom, he said, Mr. Barton, did he do the full colors on these as well?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, I
damn,
know
bro, very
his
nice.
lighting is really crazy. There was a GIF of the lighting that like the layering of the lighting that I shared on Twitter maybe about a couple days ago. So I mean, yeah, he's really detailed. Like even after I was like, oh, that looks great, he added more layers and more layers and more layers. So it's just like it's unbelievable, what you can accomplish with light and just talent. Because this is so cool.
Absolutely.
This image here is like unbelievable. It's like the coolest thing, So I always
Yeah.
imagine like what would it look like with the characters all together. And again, this is also hints towards what's going on in issue 3 because the Nutcracker is working alongside the
see that.
heroes. What is that about? Like, so it also kind of hints towards like what's going on there. Who's this good King Wenceslas? Is he an anti-hero? Is he a hero? Is he a bad guy? So you're going to have to find out. And also, how did Jack Frost come to life? Because in issue 2, let's just say that he's not himself. After that, there's something that happens to him. So yeah, there you go.
Man, very nice, bro. There's constant story movement. There's always something different happening in each book. Right on. Very good.
Absolutely.
I like it. So what are some of the sort of hidden secrets that can you give us any hints of like some of the stuff that maybe people haven't necessarily caught yet? Is there anybody that's sort of caught things that are standing out there that are maybe is there anything hidden?
Here's something, the covers are something I can say. It's like the covers are these covers are actually, I don't know if I've said this before. I've said it on a couple other shows, but they are basically references. So if there's an image of Conan the Barbarian drawn by Frank Frazetta that looks similar to this, where he's holding a sword like this and there's like a woman on his side and he's on a pile of skulls. We use that as reference for this. So nice. I mean, it's difficult to make characters that look like they're from an animation, like a puppet show, like a Rankin Bass show, look cool. So you have to kind of like think like using subtly using like classic looks from different pop culture. So you like and then the other cover with all the roster is a reference to a Justice League cover by Jim Lee, with all the characters and the fire. It's I think it's bad. Yeah, that one. It's a reference to it's a New 52 Justice League cover, and it has all the Justice League characters and the flashes in the front, and it's just a reference to a that one of those Jim Lee covers. This is also a Jim Lee cover reference. This is number 2, and it's very basically nice. From I think it's Batman and Superman issue something, but it's basically the issue where you have Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman fighting the Doomsday clones. And they made a movie out of it, and I think Michael Turner drew the book itself, but the cover itself is done by Jim Lee. So just a really we're trying to make them like, it's difficult to make these characters look cool on a cover or comic booky. So I feel like if you reference something that is already established and already people enjoy and like, and I personally like aesthetically, and that's very comic booky, then I think it works. So that's one piece of secret, I guess. I'm trying to think of anything else.
The reference game, though. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
I was going to say the reference game. That's actually, I think that's smart. I personally do that myself. All 3 prints with spells and superheroes are references to things. I think you saw the. I know you were there, but just to sort of that one where they're playing a board game and you've got those 2 shadows in the background. That's a reference to the movie poster from Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Yeah, where the turtles they're looking at like a cracked jar of like ooze in the center of the movie poster.
Yes.
Obviously the Frank Miller Foxman, that's just a straight, Wolverine cover.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
The first print, it's a reference to a Batman cover where Batman and Robin, they're like on some like playing cards, and the Joker's in the background, like a superimposed. Like I just had my artist be like, those were like 3 things that I saw early on that I really liked. It's kind of like what you said. There were things that to me, I mean, they're almost like selfishly chosen. I was like, I really, really like that, and that's what I want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool to reference things in like that because I don't know, it kind of hints to the history of comic books, and I don't know, there's something really cool about kind of covers in general. Like they're hard because you want to make them look really appealing. And especially when you're doing crowdfunding because they're the first thing you see literally. But you also want to make them look new and different and interesting. So yeah, it's just like you said, it's you want to make sure that it looks good, basically. So yeah,
absolutely.
That's my secret. That's my little secret, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely dig it, and I would say you guys have absolutely nailed it as far as making these guys look cool, even intimidating. Right here, I mean, this is the fact that it's referenced off of that Frazetta piece of him standing in a pile of bones, and it's a Christmas piece. That's just got a little level of humor to it. That's fun. But these guys down here, they're also not playing around. I mean,
no, the Knights, they're not playing around. But you will find out more about them too with issue 3. Yeah. So
is this Lord? Where's his sauce, or what's his sauce?
Good Wenceslas. Good King Wenceslas. It's a character that he's really in a really, really old Welsh Christmas carol, and it's a character that really hasn't been adapted to anything. So I just figured like I wanted to kind of use that name. I've always found his story appealing, and I love that Christmas carol, and just put him in this whole thing. He's kind of like a zealot. He's like a religious zealot. And he's really, again, like if we're really going to encompass everything about Christmas, we have to kind of encompass literally everything about Christmas. So if there weren't a religious character, it would be very difficult to do that properly. So he really is the guy. And he's like a zealot, but he's looking for, let's just say that he's looking for a Messiah sort of, and he's trying to find it desperately, and he hates commercial Christmas. So this is why he's burning all these candy canes and bells and toys, and he's not a fan of it. He wants to embrace the one true religious Christmas, and to hell with everything else. So he's going to be an interesting guy. So he's more of an anti-hero, but of course, these are the kinds of people that a Planet Christmas produce, kind of extremes. So yeah, fun character.
Very nice. Yeah, and so Good King, what's his sauce? Is that how you pronounce it?
Wenceslas.
Okay, I thought you were saying I'm thinking like, where's my cranberry sauce?
Yeah, I was like, no, yeah, it's again a reference to a really old,
never heard of it.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. What were some of the other deeper cut, like just sort of like Christmas, not traditionally, American style Christmas references?
I would say that we kind of are trying to make it medieval. Like, as with the first issue, there's a lot of castles, and with the second issue, there's castles. And I think just with the impracticality of their whole planet, like they're really, again, they're super separated from everyone else. They live in like a really separated world. Again, they have no communication with the outside planets. And that's why they're susceptible to this attack, because they don't know anything, and they trust anyone. They're really the only threats that they have are taken care of by Santa Claus and Father Christmas, and that only happens rarely. Like if it's like a monster or something, Father Christmas is there to take it down, but unfortunately, he's out of commission for certain reasons, and they have to deal with this issue. So, but you're asking about just different outside influences other than like the canonical American. I would say again, we're trying to go with that. That's one of the influences, is just having it kind of be a medieval world. Like they really don't have a lot of technology at all, and there's castles, and there's the Nutcrackers have they have that kind of design. They have I would say that's really the outside influence, is just trying to keep things kind of like that, at least in the North Pole area region where we are kind of focused. But I do want to have different explore different aspects of the world too into further issues, like what does the desert look like? The desert of Planet Christmas look like? What is the underwater culture like? Clearly, it's not going to be like the culture above ground. So, so just kind of things like that we can definitely explore. But I would say that that's kind of the other influence, if you will. But yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Right on, bro. Yeah. There's so much going on pretty much every page that you really can just sort of stop and look and take it all in. It's really, really fun art style. Was this when you initially saw the idea? Was this the art style you envisioned, or did you come across Raphael? Okay, it was.
Yeah, this is really, it really was it, because like it's just, I think once I saw his artwork, especially Raphael's artwork and Tom's, like they just had this really kind of cartoony style that I knew I really enjoyed, and it would work completely well for the series. And it clearly has. I feel like it totally works so well. And so and so I'm really happy that this is the team that I have, and I'm really thankful for their hard work and them putting up with me and working on this series with me. Yeah, I know that doing it once a year is and I mean, it's probably, Raphael always has work, he's always working. So it's hard for us all to get together and do it. But I'm so glad that, we're able to. And
this page right here, I was just thinking, as I was reading the book, I was thinking I would really love to see this as a Christmas special, even animated. But just this page right here is kind of highlights sort of almost maybe what makes a comic book special. Just due to like everything that's going on this page. You wouldn't be able to do that all on the screen all at one time the way you can make all of this art happen at once like this.
Yeah, again, it speaks to the why comic books are special and how they can tell stories in a different way, for sure.
So do you have any, sort of one-off kind of wish plans for like, I'm sure you would, but is there like any plans for anything other than a comic book with this series?
Eventually, hopefully, in the future, it could be something else. But even if not, my main goal is just to have a book that, just like my mom read to me on Christmas Eve night, the night before Christmas. It would be incredible if someone read this to their kids that on Christmas Eve or around Christmas time. Just that is something that would make me really happy. That's the ultimate goal. It's even if it's not a special done by someone else. I think that this is really something that that would be great, just to finish this book and put it in a complete edition and then actually have it published in a way where people could get it at stores or whatnot. That would be really awesome to me.
I completely agree. Yeah, this is it seems like it would work, right there on the bookshelf anywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Especially all collected like that. Very, very nice. Yeah, $30 to get all 3 issues, guys. I mean, it's $10 a book, and you also get a good King print. Yeah, very nice. Is that Tom's piece down here?
Yes.
Woo, dude. I'm getting my prints turned into movie posters. This is just for myself, but I mean, I kind of feel like I would do the same thing if I were you with these posters. Do you have any? Do you have your prints around your house? Are you that kind of guy?
I do keep them around my house, but like I haven't done these ones yet. I can't wait for these. These ones, it seems like with every new issue, like they get cooler.
Right?
They get cooler and cooler. So
very cool. All right, well, man. Ryan, it's really been a fantastic time talking with you, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks for meeting up on us or meeting up with me on this sort of definitely a different time. We don't do the show at this time, but I mean, really happy to have you, man.
Thanks for being flexible. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard these days, with the whole holidays coming around, and it's hard to be available all the time. But yeah.
Okay, guys. So definitely check this out. You got the featured tier, $30 to catch up completely. Also, the digital for $8. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you can just get the physical by itself for $12. So, but you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to get it cheaper for $10. So, there you go, guys. All right, everybody. Mr. Ryan Haack. Ryan, I'm gonna bump you to the back real quick, buddy, and then I'll be right there while I close this out. Oh, sorry. I always cut the guest off while they're talking. It's not on purpose. Okay, everybody. Thank you for watching the Ginge and Pedro Show, episode 20. This was our special Christmas edition with Ryan Haack and Bric-A-Brac number 3. So check out this, really wonderful Christmas story. And I can tell you won't be sorry you did. So until next time, everybody, we will see you later.